Lindsay worked at the Lexington County Sheriff's Department in our technology division. She started back in 2011. She would help officers when they're having problems with their computers. She could help to do installs, she could help to do software and debugging. Lindsay was a very regimented person at this point in her life. She watched what she ate. She made sure that she was getting her morning workouts. Our office has a shower at it, so she would hit her morning workout, she would get into the shower, she'd blare this loud music and get ready, and she'd be sitting at her desk, 8 o'clock, beaming and happy and ready to go. My desk was right next to hers, and she would come in there and you just felt like the sun was shining on you in your little cubicle. And on this Tuesday, the team came in and there was no music and there was nothing in the hallways. At 8 o'clock, she's not sitting at her desk. And that isn't right. It's not Lindsay.
Two of her coworkers show up to her house to try to see what is going on. Did she oversleep? Why is she not at work? There's gotta be an explanation. They show up, her car's in the driveway. Being law enforcement officers, they touch her car to see if the engine is hot. It's cold. That means the car has been sitting there for a while. As they make their way to the back door, they notice it's ajar, and it looks like someone has forced their way inside. As soon as they come in, the only thing they hear is running water coming from the bathroom. So they go to the bathroom, and the curtain to the tub is drawn. So they slowly pull back the curtain, and then that is when her coworkers see Lindsay laying in the tub, coffin style, with a huge 6-inch gash to her neck. They immediately cut off the water, get out of the house, and call for backup.
My boss actually calls and says, hey, look, the word's come back now. I want you to know everything's not okay. So the officers that were on scene know that Lindsay works with them and we don't want a conflict. See, and what we called in is our state law enforcement division.
The State Law Enforcement Division, commonly known as SLED, is a statewide agency. And we provide, manpower and technical assistance to local agencies if they need help. We have agents all over the state, so I think I got there within like 20 or 30 minutes. So we had a team pulling video surveillance. We had another team interviewing Lindsay's family. We had another team interviewing Lindsay's coworkers. And almost immediately, we find out about Jason Lee.
Jason Lee was her first boyfriend that I knew of anyway. And that was her husband. She got married in 2010.
Lindsay's family really enjoy being around Jason, and they feel like Lindsay has found her soulmate in Jason. And you can see that when you watch their wedding video. Jason is visibly crying as Lindsay comes down the aisle to meet him. Very, very emotional guy.
When Lindsay came to me and talked to me about getting healthier, she also mentioned that Jason wanted to be a part of this too. I knew that they wanted to try to work on it together to lose some weight, and they wanted to try to make something that they could support each other on, but he just didn't pick it up or didn't continue to put the work in it like Lindsay was doing.
She took to it, and she did much better than Jason was doing at it. And I think that made him jealous. And from what I could tell, I think that's what really started the downhill turn in their marriage.
So at the time of Lindsay's murder, she had been separated from Jason for 11 months and was 1 month out of her divorce being finalized.
At this point, we've got some concerns about the history of Jason and Lindsay and their background, and we start finding out some money things. Jason is in the process of being evicted from his apartment.
His car is close to getting repossessed. He's maxed out his credit cards. He owes Lindsay about $1,300 by the time their divorce is set to be finalized.
In the state of South Carolina, typically, if you are still married at the time of someone's death, you potentially and most likely will get all those assets. Jason Lee would have gotten the proceeds from the house that she had on the market for sale.
We asked him to come to the SLED office with us so we could download his phone.
We have a computer crimes unit. Those guys are kind of like, I call them the Geek Squad on steroids because they know everything. They actually do the analysis on Jason's cell phone, and there's a ton of data on it. The day after Lindsay's death, we found several things that he had searched. Defense attorneys, the media coverage of her death, the listing for the house that was for sale that she had lived in, little bits of pieces of information. Then we learned that Jason has a Fitbit, and I went back and analyzed the prior month.
A Fitbit is also an important piece of digital evidence because not only does it track your movement and your steps, but it also helps to establish patterns. Does this person wear their Fitbit daily? Does that make it then odd that it wasn't on or was inactive for 12 hours? So it's not just about tracking your movement that day in particular, but were you or were you not moving when you should have been moving?
And what I saw with that Fitbit and what I learned from the Fitbit in the prior month leading up to her death is he wore it all the time. He would wear it at night. He would even wear it, like he would have several steps in the middle of the night as if he'd, gone to the restroom or got something out of the fridge. He wore it all the time. He never was without it more than like 6 hours. Well, surrounding her death, it was a black hole. Again, we had no data for the Fitbit. Where Jason's going dark and we can't track his whereabouts is exactly when Lindsay goes dark and she ends up dead. Who would have ever thought that a Fitbit would be so crucial in this case?
It took about 2 years until this case went to trial.
I didn't know how to react when we saw him come in and sit down,
You saw no emotion from a man who was facing life in prison. None. Never one tear fell out of Jason Lee's eyes during that trial.
I work a lot of domestic violence cases, and it's very disheartening to see all these young women murdered at the hands of someone who loved them. We tell women, when you leave, it's the most dangerous time. This is what Lindsay was doing. Lindsay was leaving him behind.
I think Jason saw a happy, well-adjusted, empowered woman that he could no longer control. And he saw her moving on with her life, and it bothered him. She didn't need him. She had left him. She was able to take care of herself, and his life was falling apart. And without her, he didn't have anything. And so he decided that no one else was going to have her either.
We got word that the jury had made a decision within an hour, less than an hour.
The thing I have to say is I didn't do it, and I will be appealing this, and I will be coming back on an appeal. I did not murder Lindsay Lee, and I want that on the record.
Ultimately, Jason Lee was found guilty of murdering Lindsay Lee.
Ended up being a life sentence. He deserves to be where he's at for as long as he lives. And that's where he'll be. He's not getting out. So that's comforting to know.
I was able to say the final words at court for the family. It was emotional, but there was no script, and it just flowed out. You heard the word bubbly by I don't know how many people, and it didn't matter what time you caught her, if you brought her in at 2 o'clock in the morning to work, or you caught her at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. She always was excited, and you couldn't take that, but he took that from us.